Going live. All right, you're live. Hello. Is there anyone there? Okay, there's a couple of people in the chat. Abram Clark and Ian NZ. Good morning, Ian. Abram Clark. Yeah, you can send a track. If we have time, I'll get to it. But, obviously, the sooner the better. The people who send stuff first get first preference. And generally the things at the end get run through pretty quickly. Birits, hello. Closey 1200. Well, hello. Lost Index, hey. What do we got going on? Dose. How you doing, brother? You guys can hear me all right? I think it should be all right. Hopefully it's loud enough. How's everyone doing? Had a good weekend? Let me know in the chat. I probably won't be looking at the camera. The camera's over here. I figured out that I can actually use my Canon camera for a webcam. That's cool. Better image quality, but the webcam that I normally use is like directly in front of me, so I'm kind of like looking at the screen. So I'm not ignoring you guys. I'm just looking at my computer screen, which is here. Yeah. Recovering, Ian. What did you get up to, bro? All right. So we've got a few people online. We're almost ready to go. So let's just get going. First things first. Yeah, they're the HD 650s. They're my preferred headphones, especially for mixing and stuff. I find them really good. So first things first, we are going to pick a winner from the mixdown competition. So I've got Google random number generator here, and I'm going to generate a number, and I've got a spreadsheet down here which has all of the entries. So I'll generate a number and then I'll check the spreadsheet. I think it's got the spreadsheet's got links to people's Instagram URLs, so I might have to figure it out a second. Just got back from Germany. How was it? Whereabouts in Germany were you? Some heavy debauchery. Okay. Yeah, they do that in Germany. Number 59. Okay. So let me have a second to look here. 59. The winner is Sky Tunes. Instagram at Sky Tunes. SKYE Tunes with a Z. So Sky, you are the lucky winner. I'll message you on Instagram and let you know. So we can get rid of this random number generator now. So thanks to everyone who entered. It was cool. It was really nice to see the support, and thanks for supporting Trippin, obviously. That was part of the entry criteria. So I appreciate that. The record did really well. It's still number 1 in Progressive House on TrackSource and still in the top 10 on Beatport. So much appreciated. Anyway, we are here to listen to some of your tracks. Do I use ID reference to make them flat? I do when I'm referencing. Like, to be honest, it doesn't change that much. I'm not sure if I've got it here. I can show you. Quick sneak preview. I'm actually doing a video on SonarWorks soon, and there will be a giveaway. So someone will win a copy of SonarWorks. But let's just have a look. So reference ID Sennheiser HD650. So there's really like not that much correction happening. It's mainly this stuff down here in the subs, which I don't think is really necessary to like boost 10 dB at what's this? This must be like 20 hertz. So I don't really use it. I've got it here, but I don't use it on the 650s. Anyway, let's rock and roll. Firstly, there was a couple of people who didn't enable downloads. Yeah, so that just culls the submissions a little bit, makes my life easier, and means that we can get through more people who, well, not more through, not anyway. Let's listen to some music.
By the time you hear the next pop, the funk shall be within you.
All right, hey, really cool track. Nice. I like the way that the idea is quite refined. Like there's not too much stuff going on. I thought it obviously the vocal and the saxophone are the hooks, the kind of personality of the track, and it took a while to get there. I think you could use maybe like one other melodic element or some kind of teaser to get kind of things going before 2 minutes, but yeah, it's also, it's like people are commenting on the bass in the chat, and you can see here I've pulled it down by 3.5 dB to get it to -9 LUFS. It's massively limited, so that might be making up for some, like, it's likely that that's like screwing up your mix, and it's also likely that, like, so that pushes everything together. Everything becomes more like less dynamics. Everything's got a more similar volume, so it kind of means that your mix might not be as good as it could be. I would just ease back on that and look at it. But it sounds like, I've heard, especially for the amount of compression, I've heard worse. Let's put it that way. So I think just it's a cool groove and stuff. But I think if you could give a little more before the first break, I would recommend that. Let's jump into the next one. So I'm just going to skip through things a little bit quicker, try and give everyone a relatively similar playthrough, but we'll see how we go. Obviously, people who submit things earlier get more preference. It's just the way it is, This one's kind of confusing me a bit. Like the beat is very minimal in terms of like it's very stripped back. It's quite dubby, quite chilled. Then the vocals quite poppy. Then you've got these like afterlifey melodic techno synths. It feels like a little bit disjointed to me. I think there's probably a way to make it work, but it's also these long sections between the breaks and stuff. They just don't really have a lot going on. Like, no offense, but I got bored, you know. And that's not to say it's a shit track or you're an asshole or anything like that. I don't mean it as a like in any kind of disrespectful way. It's just genuine feedback. Between those breaks and stuff happening, I got kind of bored. There wasn't really much action. So I think it's always, you know, reference some other tracks for the arrangement and see how they keep it interesting over that kind of 6.5 minute period. Yeah, definitely. I agree, Anthony. There's potential there for sure. And don't get me wrong, what you've done there is really well done, I think. But if a track doesn't connect emotionally with people, then the mix and the production is secondary, really. The arrangement's just as important. Riff, that like arpeggio sequence riff, is really familiar. It's reminding me of like an Eric Prydz track or something like that. Maybe you don't want to disclose in the chat where you got the inspiration, or maybe it's just a coincidence. it's Sebastien Legier's remix of, or remake of, Night of the Jaguar. Really well done, man. I think it's really solid. I don't know. I kind of it feels, it does, like, now that you mention it, it does feel a little bit dated maybe, but I think it's all working really well. It's also not really my style, so it's, for me, it's not to my taste, let's say. So trying to put my personal feeling for it aside, I think it's really well done. I think you've executed what's there really well. That's the main thing. Yeah, I don't know. I think like all the synths work. There's nothing that really stands out as like, oh shit, you need to fix that, you need to adjust that. I think it's really well done. Yeah, good stuff. So a couple of the last tracks, I think, could listen to this and note how there's kind of always something happening. Like this pad is like rising up, and then it comes back down, the cutoff comes closed again, and then a hat drops in, and it's just kind of like, it's not like, and it's nice and restrained, there's not too much going on, but there's always something happening and some kind of change and something keeping me interested in the arrangement, right? So I think a few of the previous tracks could listen to that and get some kind of inspiration about how to tweak their arrangements and make them slightly more interesting.
The sun may rise in the east, at least it's settled in a final
Right, so I think this is really well done. I think from like the arrangement's really good. Everything works. There's not too much in it, but there's enough to keep me interested. The vocal, I think it totally works. And obviously it's going to have that reaction when you play it live, but and like you can see in the chat, it's a divisive thing. Some people are like, this is fucking cringe, or I've heard that too much, I hate the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And some people are gonna absolutely love the Red Hot Chili Peppers and go absolutely mental if they heard that, But I think the test is, if you put a different vocal on there, would the track still work? And I think in this case, the track still works, which is great. I think what you could do to make this better is to take that vocal out and try and use that as a reference for a vocalist, like of the vibe that you want it to have, and try and get an original vocal on there, and then it could be a big track. Obviously it's going to be hard to get a vocal that matches one of the biggest rock band of the last 30 years biggest tracks, but I think as someone who's like released a bunch of cover versions and that kind of thing, there's a ceiling to how much success it can generate for you, because it's always like seen with an but like, it's a cool track, or it's done really well, but like, it's also not 100% your idea, and it's not 100% your thing. So if you can make a track that cuts through as well as this would with an original vocal, then that's something like that's going to stand out and could really help you develop a career for you. Food for thought. But yeah, really well done. And now for something completely different. really cool, man. Really well done. Everything sounds super good in it. It's got a pretty chilled vibe, which is really nice chord progression. I think you'd have to make some space for it, but like I think you could get a vocal in there. Some like nice ethereal vocal would be. It feels like an instrumental of a track that also has a vocal to me. Because you bring in this nice up. But I don't know that by itself is like a strong enough hook to really make the track stand out against other tracks, right? So depending on what you're going for, maybe this is what you're going for. Technically, I think it's great. The arrangement works well, but I think like to elevate it, a vocal could be utilized well. And I think, like it can be scary, and not always easy, but like getting an original vocal is gonna do wonders for your track and your credibility, as opposed to getting something off Splice. Like I think especially Splice, like so many of the vocals are so poppy, and it's kind of like I feel like when I'm using stuff off Splice, I'm really like settling for, okay, this is the best thing I can find, rather than like this is the perfect vocal for the record that I'm doing. So like check out soundbetter.com is a good one for getting like really professional vocals. You pay for them, but yeah, it's a way that allows people who aren't necessarily in the industry access to pretty well established vocalists and stuff, as well as like mixing engineers, mastering engineers, all sorts of that kind of thing.
Bring your body. Bring your body. Your body back.
So with this one, I think like this frequency analyzer, spectrum analyzer, is telling a lot of the story on the kind of first minute and a half of the track, right? Like there's a lot of stuff going on.
Bring your body back.
But there's also something missing, like in this kind of mid-range frequency, and then when you get here to like 1.5 minutes, you bring in these nice chord stab, like chord stabs, riff type thing that fills up a lot of that space. But it kind of like, until that happens, the track feels a bit empty, like a bit lifeless. So I think you want to bring in some of that personality sooner. It actually, when you bring in the lower chord stabs here, because you've already got a lot of bass, and then you're kind of bringing in this like low mids, like chord stab thing. I don't think it like balances it out. So I think you'd maybe bring them all in at once, or try bringing in the higher one first. I'm not sure, but that it feels much more balanced once both of those chord layers are in. I think on these tight stabs here and here, you could use a delay to create like automation to create intensity and tension. Like I can try it here. Obviously the project timing is different timing to this, and it's not warped. So, but like I'm kind of hearing so those playing, I'm hearing like a kind of slapback delay that's increasing, and almost like you'd do on a DJ mixer. I think that would work really well, just to make those bits a bit more interesting. And in general, you could also do the same thing on these like back parts. Like you're automating the filter cutoff on quite a few things, which is great, but I think there's a bit more there that you could do with some kind of creative effects, and to create a bit more movement in some of those build-ups, or a bit more movement, a bit more dynamics in them.
Bring your body back. Bring your body back.
But yeah, solid. This arrangement, I mean, I would suggest ditching this break here and just kind of making a bit more of a easier outro. I don't think this is really, because it's not really bringing anything to the party. What happened there? So I think this is probably going to sound a lot cooler if you take off the heavy sidechain when there's no kick playing. Because that you can really hear it on that first beat that it's being sidechained, but there's nothing to sidechain it from, right? Kind of sounds out of time with everything else, and it's quite crowded by like the electric keys and stuff like that, but yeah. Not out of time per se, just more like not grooving. I mean, this is, yeah, it's really well done. Everything is awesome. There's lots of depth and texture and that kind of thing. I would like to hear like a reference of where it's supposed to fit in. It feels like a nice creative endeavor, but from a functional perspective, I'm not sure where it fits. Which, you know, whatever, if you make what you want to make, that's the most important thing, but it's always worthwhile thinking about, like, how does this fit into the ecosystem of music? I assume that most people who are DJs mixing nightmare, yeah, you know, I assume that most people who are sending this stuff in take their music seriously, in that they want to release it, they want to have it heard by people, they want to have it played by DJs, that kind of thing. So I think it's always worthwhile just keeping that in mind, asking yourself those questions, like who's playing this, what labels are releasing this, and not it doesn't mean making like music that you don't believe in or aren't passionate about just so that it will be released. Trust me, I've tried that, and it didn't go well for me anyway. So, do what, at the end of the day, do stuff that you believe in, but it's always worthwhile thinking about who is the audience for it, right? And I think that is a relevant question for this track, in my opinion. So there's quite a lot going on here. Also very early on in the track, like you kind of, I was going to say you've gone from 0 to 100, but you didn't really start at 0. You started like maybe at 75 and you've gone to 100. The kick is like way too loud. There's a bunch of like layers that are competing in terms of like, they're sitting in the same they're sitting in the same areas of the frequency spectrum, playing over the top of each other. So they're kind of like masking each other, competing for the same space. You've got a lot of things that are competing for attention. You've got a massively loud kick. You've got your like percussion hats and stuff are quite quiet. And then you've got these I don't mean any disrespect, but like obnoxiously loud effect sounds, like okay. This is it feels like you just threw a whole bunch of stuff together, and which is great, but a big part of like progressing as a producer, artist, composer, whatever, is knowing what to take out. So I think what you need to do with this track is refine it, take away as much as possible, but you need, in order to know what to take away, you need to know what is the main idea. Like, if I just play this, there's nothing that stands out as like, oh, that's what this track is about. But there's a lot of things like fighting for my attention and playing over the top of each other. So I think just start, maybe like choose one thing and go, this is the point of this track, and then like start turning things on and off and figure out what are the elements that complement that, and the rest of it, leave them out. It doesn't mean you have to like get rid of them forever. You can use those as like the starting point for another track or something like that. Yeah. There's about 5 tracks worth of worth of content in there, I think, which is good place to start. You know, some people don't know where to. They can't come up with an idea, and you've come up with a lot. So that's a good place to be. Hugo, I don't know how you got here either, but it's good to have you here. Welcome. You could do, like, you could use a bit more automation, like on the elements as they're coming in. So just kind of bring them in gradually rather than dropping them in, because everything's sounding like really solid. I just think having some things that kind of drop in on a certain time and some things that come in gradually, it kind of makes the arrangement feel a bit more blended rather than just kind of systematic. I don't know if that's the right word, but
it's in business with pleasure, never.
All right.
Fact of the matter, as a matter of fact, got my sights set for a better like to glance back. We will extract no hidden treasure. Caught up mixing business with pleasure, never ditch fun, lose it forever. You can never re-bridge all the ties you sever. Give an apple pressure, even rocks will crack. If we become the opposite, then why don't we attract? Is it time to end this endeavor? Is it time to thought this was forever?
I think you want to turn your hats up a bit for house music. I think you probably want it more like quite a bit, like maybe a few dB, 4 dB.
Is it time to end this endeavor? Is it time to thought this was forever?
And then you've got like the vocals are pretty loud, bass is pretty loud, everything's pretty loud with the hats and everything's not. Some really nice sound design in here though.
Confident, out of touch, running these lines all just an act. If we become the opposite, then why don't we attract? Is it time to end this endeavor? Is it time to thought this was forever?
The vocal, I mean, it kind of works, but it seems quite dry. It seems a little bit disconnected from the track. I think using some reverb, like mixing some of the instrumentation and some of the vocal into the same like room reverb or something like that. Like, I don't know if it'll work, but because it's going to put everything in there. But
is it time to thought this was forever? Is it time to end this endeavor? Is it time to thought this was forever? Is it? Is it time to?
Yeah, I think it's really cool, man. I think you could also with the vocal. I don't know. There's arguments for and against, like the kind of dropping it in as you've done, but I think you could probably tease it in with this.
Thought this was forever. Is it time to?
This like, is it time to hook, so that like from like a listener's perspective, you'd hear it and you'd be like, oh yeah, that's a cool, interesting, catchy vocal. You wouldn't even know necessarily that it's going to have like a rap vocal. Then like at some point you drop into that verse and then it's like kind of a surprise and takes the track to a whole nother level. I think that would probably be a more clever way to arrange the vocals. Nice percussion groove. Yeah, really solid stuff, Anthony. There's not a great deal that I could kind of suggest. The break for me, like especially, I listen to these tracks a lot as a DJ, right? And for me, I think this break would deter me from playing this track, because I mean, if you played it at the right time, maybe it's going to work, but it's a bit kind of noodly. um, like there's nice sound design going on, there's nice little riffs and stuff happening in there, but it's not like it felt kind of like a low point of the track. And as I said at the start, like I'm trying to jump through the tracks so that we can hear everything with enough time, but this one caught me. The only point where it lost me was kind of in the break. It didn't create a lot of anticipation. Yeah. Okay, so that's my feedback. But really well put together, man. Great. And really nice, clear sound. That bass is so sick. It's like got this kind of garagey vibes. Yeah, love it. So nice. Mirage is like such a good producer, man. Anyone who's making like kind of deep house type stuff needs to get amongst this dude's stuff. He's like, yeah, he's really, really good. The hi-hat here, I think it's kind of not enough to keep the beat going as like a kind of groove element here, and I think the having like everything drop away and just having the vocal and the pads and stuff would have more impact if you just cut all the percussion completely, and then you'll start building it up again from So good, man. He always consistently delivers. But one thing, now this is not about this track. I'm just going to try and figure out what 128. So I know Mirage normally watches the streams back. He's in Sydney, I think. But I was playing one of your tracks in a podcast which I did for Bondage Music the other day, and when I was recording it, I noticed that you had some weird timing on when some of your breaks and stuff happened, and it might have just been that one track. So I'm just going to have a look at this. Whatever, maybe I'm just a shit DJ, but it threw me off. And like the track was your one on Valiant, and it's such a nice track, but it kind of like things happened at unexpected timing. Maybe I screwed something up, but I also like maybe I screwed something up and I made it out of time, but it was like a bit awkward when I was playing it. So I don't know, just maybe keep that in mind, that like just having things dropping in and out at predictable times for unskilled DJs such as myself. Yeah. Nice start, Ollie. I will upload the live stream so you'll be able to watch it back. Really nice vibe on this, Ollie. It's feeling a little bit muddy. I think it's also a bit over compressed, like it feels like things are getting louder in the breakdown. So I think, I mean, that could be a combination of the mix and the mastering. But like, yeah, I think before you start going really heavy-handed on the limiting, I think it's a good idea to try and get the mix so it almost sounds how you want and then you basically end up needing to do less compression on the master and have a track that probably holds up better. Yeah, this is really solid, dude, but I think the mix needs some work, and kind of like in some of these breakdowns, I'm not sure if it's the mix but there's like, it needs a bit more dynamics in the energy. It could just be from like the compression and the mix, but if you kind of are taking away a bit more in the breaks, then you're going to have a bit more to give when it drops back in. But vibe check, passed. Needs a cleaner mix. The master is just to make it loud and, subtle tweaks. I think the oversaturation feeling is coming from the overcompression. I think the vocals just gotten completely out of hand here. It was when you had it just play that like one hypno dance, it like worked, and it was it felt like it was sitting correctly in the mix. But now when you're repeating this vocal, it gets a bit offensive. I think it's like, yeah, it's too far forward in the mix, and I don't think it's like working against the vibe that you had in the track. So there, where it's like a bit, I don't know if it's the delay or if it's like more filtered out, but so just when it comes up and when the highs are coming through more, you opened the cutoff or something on it. I just don't think it's working. So I think you could do that, having it there as a layer, but I also don't know if that's the best use of it, in my opinion.
Because music intoxicates us, because it hypnotizes us and transports us. For all of that, hypno dance, hypno dance.
That little transition there felt a bit awkward. I'm really picking, like, the track's really well done, so I'm kind of like picking its straws here, but
Because music intoxicates us. Because it hypnotizes us and transports us. For all of that,
that male vocal could use some de-essing. You can really hear it on the reverb. The S's are like ringing out.
Hypno dance. Hypno dance.
Yeah, I think this more subtle use of the vocal is more appropriate for the track, I would say. I don't know if you need this spoken word vocal. It kind of feels a bit obvious, to be honest. Like, I get what you're trying to do with it. It's cool, but I think the track might feel a bit more refined, especially in the style that you're going for, if you just remove it. I guess you've put it into, it sounds like some kind of AI generated thing. It sounds a bit robotic. It could be that it's just too loud. Maybe try pitching it down, or not pitching it down, using like Little Altar Boy. Turn the formant down so it kind of gives this pitch down effect, but without actually changing the key. You could try that. Bring it back in the mix a bit more. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it really needs it. Yeah, it's really good, and I think there's just a couple of things that could be a bit more subtle in it. Yeah, refinement. So I think you've got way too much. I think you've got way too much bass here. I'm pretty sure if you play this on like a large sound system in a club or a festival or something, it's just going to sound like. But the vibe is cool. I think also this piano is really loud. From a functional perspective, it's like the arrangement's a bit off. Like, I don't know when playing this track in this arrangement is going to be appropriate. Like this is cool. You haven't really given enough to the track to like, so if I'm DJing, right, am I supposed to drop in here and drop out of the last track here, and like then this track is like the main track that I'm playing? And if so, like there's not really, you haven't given enough to that track. And then I play this track for 30 seconds and then we drop into this epic piano chords, and then we drop into this like bass, like I think there's an idea for a really good track in here. A lot of it has to do with the arrangement. I think you need to go back to the drawing board a little bit, and I would just reference some tracks that are in the style, have the vibe that you're going for, and just try and figure out how they arrange it. Because I think you've got the right elements. Maybe, I don't know if that piano is necessary. You've got a nice chord progression in the bass. You've got some cool like arpeggio type things. The vocal can definitely work. I just think the arrangement is kind of letting it down a bit just from the start. So use some reference tracks. Figure out how someone who has more experience would do it. That's like the other thing is, that's how people with more experience figure out things. They listen to people with more experience than them. You know, I'm constantly referencing things. It's just what you do. It's the best, like, it's the best way to figure out why things aren't sounding the way you want them to sound, is like go, well, if they sounded how I would want them to sound, oh, this is a good track that sounds the way I want it to sound, so what's the difference between mine and that one? I realised that sentence maybe didn't make sense, but hopefully you got the idea. The clap's a bit loud on here myself, but I still really love the vibe of this track, and I think this like open hi-hat that you've got going from the start could be better done with like a more closed hi-hat that you then layer that open one on top of. It's just going to give it a bit less energy. And then if you were to bring in that open hi-hat, it's going to give it a bit more energy. So it's just like a, I don't know, it'll work for the arrangement. Still left in that hi-hat that I am not particularly a fan of, I think, or you've used another one. It's quite resonant. It's kind of like, it's got this, I don't know, I'll see if I can isolate it for you. Turn down this white noise riser. So I think that is the wrong place to open up more of the vocal. I think if you, because there's a lot of energy building up, it clouds out the vocal, it makes it more muffled, because you've got this white noise rising up, you've got this snare roll coming in. I think it's not the right time to let more wave on the vocal. So I think you could have that happen here. So you have the longer phrase there, and then the shorter phrase, and then the build up, the drop. I think it's probably just going to work nice, work a bit better. Needs better use of reverb. So this is not, just for context, this is not the first time I've heard this track. Marcel and I discussed it the other day, and it's really sick. It's one of his best tracks to date, in my opinion. But yes, I tell him about the reverb thing often. Really good, man. It's really getting there. I think it's really, really good, and I think it's worth just keep plugging away at it, keep refining it. It's a super vibe, man. I really love it, and just reference other tracks, see how what they're bringing in, when and where. Change up that hi-hat. It's really nice. Make sure you're saving like new versions each time that you're making some changes, because I know, especially at the stage you're at in your production journey, career, it could be easy to screw something up, and then if you can't go back to the one version before, then that can be super frustrating. Trust me, I've been there. Solid stuff, Adria. It feels like there's kind of like not enough space in that break there. Yeah, maybe drop out a kick drum or two. I think it's just going to roll a bit more nicely into that. Will you stay if we crash down? Will you break pieces on the ground next to me and the sun comes out? The vocal might be a little bit too loud, and maybe the hat's a little bit too quiet. If I just find a place where super solid, man. I think all the elements are there. It's like really, yeah, I think you just improving the mix a bit. And for me, the break from like kind of here to here felt a bit like it wasn't really progressing. It felt like there was just a break because that's what you do in this part of the track, and it wasn't really kind of holding my attention or creating tension and like building. So I think figuring out what to do here, I think could really, really bring this to the next level. But really, really solid, really solid. I think you said in the email that was for a remix competition or something, but it's nice. Right, I knew I knew the vocal. I was like, oh, this vocal seems really familiar. So I know where I've heard this before. Even despite the the very creative naming protocol. So we talked about this. I can't remember. Was it this week or last week? I think a lot of the stuff that I said then still stands, like just making the beat a bit punchier, a bit cleaner. It sounds pretty distorted, pretty saturated still, and the bass is still really loud. So I think we were referencing a Dusky track, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I would try and you can like mute a bunch of the stuff and just try and get your beat to kind of match their beat in terms of like the dynamics and like the volume of the hats, clap, kick, and the way that those elements cut through. And don't be scared to just change out the kick, change out the clap. Like I've had the experience a lot where I'm like, oh, this track's not working, and then you change the kick and the whole thing just kind of gels together. The way I do that is, if this is a, come on, oh, wrong button. Okay, so we've got a MIDI track, it's an audio track, what's going on? I'm pressing the wrong button. I'm pressing the wrong button. Okay. Okay, so we've got our kick here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so we're just playing our kick, and then we've got our kick sample, boom, and we're playing it, and we're like, okay, it's not sounding right. I mean, it's from Dilby's Underground Shades of House sample pack, so it's probably going to sound right. But let's just imagine that it wasn't sounding right. So what I do is I just use the hot swap button here, and that goes to the place on where that sample pack is, and then you can literally use the arrow keys and the enter key on your keyboard and just go boom. And I'll do that in real time while the track is playing. I do that with a lot of elements, so especially my main kind of core elements, because it doesn't matter what it sounds like when I'm listening like this. It's irrelevant. It matters how it sounds in the context of the track while everything else is playing. That's the best way to find the right sounds. Because listening like this is like, I don't know. It doesn't. When I started doing this like listening in context thing, my music just elevated massively because I was able to choose the right sounds, because they're the sounds that sound right in that context, not sound right when I listen to them. The bass on this just sounds way too loud. Also, like some elements have got loads of reverb on it, and I think it sounds like you're putting individual reverbs on different channels, and there's a lot of reverb on different things, and it sounds quite, the elements sound quite disjointed. The Lufs plugin, it's Waves loudness meter, but there's a free one called Julian loudness meter, which measures the loudness. I feel like it's also lacking a discernible hook. It's got this kind of like plinky resonant melody thing, but it's not really doing too much throughout the track. It kind of feels like a background element that's mixed very forward, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's my feedback. Oops. probably start with a few less hi-hats going on here. Just keep it a bit punchier. The vocal is like can work by sorry, let me start that again. I think the vocal can work for sure, but I thought the piano sample thing that came in here was quite interesting. And then it kind of, the vocal feels a bit out of place when paired together with that element. Like I think just having that piano section and then dropping back in could probably work a bit better. The two just feel a little bit disjointed from one another.
Your body right, body right, body right.
Yeah, so the vocal and the piano are definitely not working together melodically, but also on a vibe. Mainly on a vibe, both. It's just not working together. Yeah, so it's like if you look at the chat here, it's 50-50. Some people are like the piano sucks. I personally love the piano, and I think it adds like this quite almost like a hip hop vibe to the track, and not in like any kind of cheesy way. I think it's like a really nice. Yeah, I think the piano is awesome, but the combination of the piano and that vocal, I think, cut it.
Body right, body right, body right.
And then obviously this build up is done more in line of how you would probably do the track if you weren't using the piano, if you just had the vocal. So I think what I think is that the piano is much more unique than the vocal. The vocal sounds like something from a sample pack, kind of like a comment I made earlier about I find when I'm using splice vocals that I always feel like I'm kind of settling for something, even though I feel like it's a little bit too cheesy or a bit too poppy or something. I just always get that vibe from splice vocals, and this kind of feels a little bit like that, like something I would use but I wouldn't be totally happy with, whereas the piano sounds a lot more unique and kind of adds a lot more. It would make the track stand out compared to other tracks a lot more, but then I think you would need to rethink the way that you present it in these breaks. The rest of the track is really, really well done. Super solid. I think Houston signed a track from last month from the live stream. He's a really, really good producer. So I think, so Steve Kelly, who was my guest last month, giving feedback, he signed 2 tracks, I believe. Yeah. So Unknown Vibes and Houston, I believe. He signed tracks from both of them. So yeah, that one's it's solid, Andy. I think you just need to like pick a lane for that, to be honest. So there's some of these sounds. So I just preface this by saying that I'm going to skip through these last ones pretty quickly because we're finishing up the stream very soon. I just want to give everyone a few little pointers on the last ones. This is the reason why it's always good to get your stuff in early, because we go for 2 hours and when we're done, we're done. But I think some of these sounds are just way too loud. The drums are kind of letting down the track a bit, like they're just very chilled. I would reference some other tracks in the style that you're going for, try and emulate their drums and percussion, and then also reference the volume that they've got there, like leads and effects and stuff like that, and try to get it sounding closer to what you're trying to do. right, so I think you mentioned in your email that you'd tried like remixing one of the projects from Patreon. Cool idea. It's, I think you like there's so much reverb on some of this stuff. It's just everything sounds a bit washed out. And so what I would recommend doing is just kind of taking a step back, getting all of your bass elements, not like baseline elements, like all your kind of foundational elements, your kick, your bass, your claps, your hi-hats, just sounding really well mixed and put together, and then bring in your other elements on top of them. Reverb, a good rule of thumb is to like bring it in until you can hear it and then bring it back a bit. It's going to sound more natural. You know, even when you hear something in a very reverby space, you're hearing mainly the source sound, and the reverb is like very mixed in the background. Also, name your tracks. Trust me, this stuff does not work. You end up trying to find that like a year later, and it's not going to go well. There's some things. So there's some things in the groove here that are really competing against each other. So try refining that. Turn everything off. Have your kick and bass, and then slowly bring things in until you can figure out what's adding to the groove, what's taking away from the groove. Sounds like there's kind of, I don't know if it's too many things in here, but there's definitely things that are taking away from the foundation of the track. And then it sounds like you've watched a bunch of tutorials on how to make Afterlife type lead sounds and put a bunch of those into practice, which is great. But it's like, I think it's worth trying to picture the context in which someone is going to interact with that track. You know, these tracks can do well on Spotify and stuff, but predominantly, you know, they're made as a record to play live in a big live setting, you know, a big festival or whatever. So it's worth making an arrangement that's going to work for that, but also just thinking about how the arrangement works in terms of the way that things come in. And if you don't know that intuitively, then reference other tracks. Yeah. I think this was another one that was really compressed. Everything just sounds quite mushed together.
Come to me, baby. Come to me, baby, on another day. We will be okay. We will be okay.
nice lo-fi house vibes. It's the over compression is really throwing me off. Just everything feels like oversaturated, and kind of there's no separation between the elements, and it feels like a track that could really use that. It's like a chilled, groovy house track, and it just feels like over smashed. Yeah, Closey 1200 said the afterlife effect is used way too much for my personal tastes. Never been a fan of it. Just kind of going back to that from this track, like the sound design and stuff is great, and you know, a lot of people really resonate with that, and it can sound unique, but a track that is just like a simple beat and bass line, and then has like all these whooshes and bangs just in and of itself is not that interesting. You know, those things are used to create tension and release and some kind of wow factor within a track that is otherwise well composed as well. The ones that do really well from those labels, they're not those elements aren't just thrown in randomly. You know, they're used for effect to engage with the listener. Yeah, to me this sounds like a track that should have a lot of dynamics, and it just doesn't. I find it quite hard to listen to. Yeah, sorry. Oops, wrong track. That bass line sounds like it's an octave too high or something. It's a bit odd. It sounds a bit weird, but I think if you try it down an octave or try a different sound. I think you could use a bit more movement in your bass line. This dun, 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 dun. It's a bit boring. I think you could find a cooler melody for the bass. Pump it down, and it's, you know, this is a very bass-led style, so yeah, down an octave, so a bit more movement in it. You've got these kind of glitchy tantra kind of effects. I would try maybe pulling them out or just bringing them down in the mix. I think it's having those loud in the mix is like a bit overdone at this point. Or another way to use them is to like turn off the reverb and any kind of spatial effects, and then bounce it to audio, and then use bits of those audio of the audio file instead of just playing like the whole glitchy loop thing. Victor Nova says, when you copy, you will never be able to achieve the level of the artist you are copying. Great to copy for practice, but not for releases. Yes and no. I would say that no one is really doing anything super original in terms of like, I think learning is about copying and emulating, but it's then about trying to put your own spin on it. And I think this is not, some of these tracks might be released, but the point of this is not that like these tracks are being released, they're here to get feedback. And I don't think there's anything wrong with copying. It also, this idea of like being original or finding your own voice, it's like you don't just start to produce music or write music and have your own voice. You need to develop that. So I think I know what you're trying to say, and I agree with it in essence, but I think in terms of like actually putting it into practice, it takes time to be able to do that. Yeah, I think you've got all the elements in here that you need, but the core of the track, which is the bass line, is not working. So I think if you can get that working, then everything is likely to come together a bit more. All right. Thank you everyone who sent your tracks in. I know it can be a bit scary, and hopefully I didn't roast them too hard. I try to be positive and give helpful feedback where I can. I try not to bring my personal taste into things too much, because who says my taste is good or not? It's my taste. Everyone has their own personal taste and personal opinions, so I'm trying to give more objective and technical stuff. So I appreciate that, and don't take anything that I said to heart. Keep pushing and shit. All right, I gotta go, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Peace, and we will do it again next month. Now, how do I stop this? All right, enjoy the rest of your Sunday.